Hey everybody, Happy New Year! I hope everybody's doing great today. Hope you're looking forward to 2026. I know I am. Excuse me, I'm choking on. That's a good intro to the new year. But anyway, I hope everybody's ready for the New Year's pen. I am. So last time we cast some, I was trying to go for like kind of fireworks feel or something like that. We used a ton of different glitters and stuff. We went for kind of a blackish, black, but not like kind of transparent black background, and a little bit of color as well. So we pulled out some random things that I had, and a few people did let me know that this color creator stuff that I was using is available, and I looked it up, so I confirmed everything. You can get it at illumilite.com. Well, I didn't confirm this. I'm pretty sure you can get it at illumilite.com. Or you can get it on Amazon. So, and they have a bunch of different stuff. There was all these little chameleon things and glitters, and we used a lot of those types of things. I did throw in a couple extra other things as well. We used some ghost, what is it? I always lose the name. Galactic ghost colors that you can get at iCandy.com or iCandy Pigment, whatever, the iCandy's website. I think you can get most of those at Turner's Warehouse as well. So lots of things, a couple things that were random, like samples that I sent, and I have no clue where I got them. A couple of the glitters, but most of this other stuff you can get places, it's available. So pretty cool. I'm excited. So I don't know if you guys saw the question of the day. God, my throat is, I gotta get a drink. I got all excited about the stream. Okay, I'm better, I think. The question of the day is, what casting projects do you want to do in 2026? Do you want to like make or learn how to do? And I have I'm curious to see what people are looking forward to making this year. But the other thing is, if there's something that I can do on the stream that might help out, it might give me some ideas on things that we can do on the stream if somebody's looking to like kind of learn how to do something. Probably mostly pen focused, but I might dabble, outside of pen stuff, depending on what the project is. So anyway, without further ado, let's show you guys the results of the casting. So like I said, we did two different versions. One of them, the one on, I don't know which side of the screen this is for you, maybe the left. These ones, we used macros, the Galactic Ghost, which I just kind of lump into like the macro, macro sparkle, 14 karat nugget, and then like the Galactic Ghost colors. Where's my Galactic Ghost stuff? Just to kind of show if anybody didn't see last time. So they're like bigger chunks they're more glittery than mica. It's like bigger chunks of stuff. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but if you're familiar with these, they're more glittery stuff. They're bigger chunks of color, and they're generally kind of like they glisten. Let's say, I don't know, but they're a little bit different than your typical mica powders, like just colors. Like a typical mica powder is just kind of a really small particle, kind of, I don't know, powdered sugary more. So there was a lot more of this macro stuff going on in these ones. These ones, no macro, I don't believe. I'd have to look up exactly what we did. It was a lot more glitter, but we also used the chameleon, I want to say they were called chameleon something in here. Like a color shift powder. I think we did that in both of them, but yeah, I think we did. But this color creator color change powder, so that's like, it's going to be like kind of two different colors. There's like a little bit of blue and purple kind of going on in this one. We used one that had, I don't know, they call it gold, I guess. But it has like a kind of a gold, but kind of a bronze looking thing going on. I don't know. We used a couple different of those. And I don't know though, I'm pretty stoked about these. So these ones, and they, they're really spacey. I would say if you wanted to go for like a nebula type thing, That would work. These ones are a little bit different. With the macro, you got bigger chunks and there's a lot more like bronze look to this. Both sets we use like a backdrop of black, but this one definitely has more of a bronze look, which is kind of cool because in my brain, I'm thinking like fireworks in the sky. So I kind of like this one being kind of a lot more like black background with some color and some, you know, fireworks. It kind of reminds me of confetti as well, which also goes with the New Year's theme. These ones are a little bit more like, if you're familiar with the fireworks that are like, they look like lion manes or something like that. That's kind of what this reminds me of more. And even if you go to last week's video, the thumbnail, those ones match the thumbnail a little bit better. So anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for Monarch pen kit. Let me go grab the Monarchs. They're like Sierras or, you know, Wall Street or Gatsby, that variant. I wanted to turn one of each of these. So I thought, let's go for the Monarchs. Haven't turned any of those for a while. I like the Monarchs. The other reason I went with these is because I went for a pretty transparent dye. They're probably going to be see-through. Like you're going to probably see the tubes if you don't paint the tubes. I don't think you need to paint the blank. We'll see. This is another test. I wanted to see, you know, for everybody in the pen blank club, you know, can you get away with just painting the tube and that's fine, or do you really need to go in and paint the blank itself to cover up the glue splotches? Pretty sure, well, I mean, obviously, if you paint the tube, you're going to cover the brass. So you're not going to see brass. That's good. But, you know, the question is it going to cover the glue splotches, or are you going to see that? So we'll see that. So I didn't use those. But anyway, getting back to that, the other reason is I have the powder-coated tubes for these Monarchs. And I have a link to them. I got these guys on turnerswarehouse.com. So there's that. Get you a link to these guys. I really liked this blue. I thought that would be kind of a cool contrast with this darker black one, and it also kind of matches the blue shading in this thing a little bit. So I went for a blue one. I've wanted to use the blue one. I just didn't have a good blank to use for that one for a long time. I've had it sitting in the drawer for a while, so I thought that would be pretty cool. We'll go with the blue on that one. And then I had one that is antique brass, and I'm not sure. We'll have to see how this goes. But the plating is similar. It kind of matches. So I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of bronze looking kind of color, you know, in this, if this is going to work or not. But I thought, let's give it a try. We can always disassemble it and put something else on there if we don't like it. So that's what we got going on today. Excuse me, today. Man, my throat is just, I don't know what's going on. Got the frogs. So how was everybody's New Year? New Year's Eve, did you do anything cool? We didn't do much. Well, what we did was we had a good dinner, and we watched the Stranger Things finale, which was amazing. We're big Stranger Things fans. So it was pretty exciting when they were doing season 5 this year. So let me scroll up. I'm just gonna do this little thing. Let's see here. Let me scroll. See if I saw any answers to the question of the day or anything else. Any other questions? Calvin did the first cast. Color ply Aztec lumber. What's that? I don't know what that is. And some maple burl. That's cool. Color. So like, is that like the Spectra ply? That's the name that I'm like, where it's like colored, like dyed plywood, that kind of stuff. Let's see, Harold. One thing I'd like to figure out is suspending things. Okay. Do a drop color. Yeah. Sometimes I'll give you a quick answer. We might do some of that stuff. It depends. Are you, so follow-up question. Are you talking about suspending like Let me see if I have something that would be like suspending like an object, or are we talking about like the color drop type thing where you're just kind of pouring, like you got clear base and you're trying to like drop another color of resin in there and just kind of hang it or do something. Let me know if that's which way you're, because you can also you know, like suspend an object in there as well. A lot of times that type of thing is more like a stopper type of a deal, I would say, handles, where you're actually like suspending something, because otherwise you just, you know, drill into it and turn it away in a pen. But if you're talking about color drop stuff, that's not too bad. Let's see here, any other questions? Turning a witchcraft, nice. I can't wait to see it, that'll be cool. Oh man, the thing scrolled crazy. 2 weeks off for the holiday, nice. Yeah, I've been kind of, we got a Nintendo Switch too, so I've been playing a lot of that lately. Most of the time at night though. Kind of like Spectreplay. Oh, cool. Diamond shape piece. I'll have to check that out. That's cool. An object with clear base and then drop the colors to swirl around. Okay, yeah, we can work on that. It's tough sometimes. I'm not excellent at doing that, but we might try that out. Maybe do like stoppers or something like that. And then Kurt's just starting on casting, suspending stuff. It is tough. And I'll give you like a little hint. A lot of times you there's two ways to approach depending on how heavy it is, because, you know, if it's lightweight, if it's a lightweight type thing, you could maybe get it to just kind of hang out there, like by kind of placing it in there, but you'd have to wait for like really thick temperature, you know, like the temperature would need to be pretty high on the resin, which means it's really thick. But even with that, a lot of times you're not going to get it to stay there. It'll still kind of drop. The other ways you can do it is you can do a 2-cast pour, where you pour up to a certain point, stick the thing in there, let it cure in the pressure pot, and then take it out and re-pour the rest of it. The problem with that is you're going to get a line. There's going to be a visible line. It just depends on how visible it is and how much you care about that. But usually you will, depending on how you look at the thing, you'll see that there's like this weird kind of line kind of thing. Alumilite Clear actually does really well with that. It's probably one of the best that I've seen. Actually, I've tried a few different types of things with that. The problem is the way that resin works, it's not going to like cure. So if anybody's familiar with like wood finishes, so like lacquer literally burns into itself. If you put 20 coats on, by the time you're done with the 20 coats, it's one solid piece. It's not like 20 different layers. But if you put 20 coats of polyurethane on, it's literally 20 separate layers. You know, one cures, you're putting the next one on, and it's a separate layer basically. Now with wood finishes, you don't really see anything because you're looking down on it. You're not looking on the side. But if you did look on the side of it and you got it thick enough, you would actually see different little lines. And so the way casting resin works, it's more like obviously Alumilite is actually a polyurethane, but the way that all of them work, epoxy, polyurethane, or polyester resin, they don't like burn into themselves. They don't like chemically dissolve the layer below it and then create like one layer. If you poured two layers, it's literally two separate things. It's going to harden up and it's going to be a layer of plastic, and then you're putting another layer of plastic on top, so you can see the lines. Now, for people that just make, like if you wanted to make like a snow globe and you cast it in place and you didn't sand or cut into it, a lot of times at that point, if you're not cutting into the thing, you can actually get away with a pretty much invisible separation. But we turn stuff, and so the minute that you sand it or cut into it or do anything, then that line is very visible. But like I said, it just kind of depends. It's usually not like it's terrible. It's just you're going to know that you did two pours. Like people could figure it out, kind of thing. You're not going to get away with the illusion that you were able to, somehow suspended in there magically. Now the other way to do it is you can just use like fishing line and like hang it in there. Then you're not going to get a visible line, where the two pores were, but you're probably going to see the fishing line. It will probably show up. It's just really hard to hide things, but we'll work on that. And then like trying to get like swirls around it sometimes can be difficult, but we can kind of work on that. Like I said, I'm not particularly great at it. I've tried a few times. I've gotten good results. I've gotten results, but it'll be kind of fun to try that sometime. So let's see. Rhombus, not diamond. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, we got our ornaments up on the trees too that I won. Where's Chad at? There's Chad. Hey. All right, so let's go turn some blanks. I think it's time to go turn. So let's see. One other little random thing that I wanted to share, and I'll probably show you guys this once I get it. One of the things I've been wanting, I really want to learn how to sharpen my own drill bits. I'm just sick and tired of like having like literally a box full of bits that I'm like, I don't really want to have to send this or drive it somewhere to get these resharpened. So I tend to buy more bits and just buy new ones. But it's kind of a problem because I've actually had a couple customers who, pen blank customers who have had like blanks blow up. And I'm certain that it's not the blanks. It's what ends up happening is it's one of two problems. Usually what happens is if you're using like really dull drill bits, or you're just, drilling kind of slowly, heat can cause a problem when you're drilling. And it won't be noticeable until you get the thing glued on a tube and then stuck on the lathe and it blows up. If you overheat the resin, the blank, the cured blank, it can make it brittle basically. And the other issue is sometimes if you don't get a good glue joint on the blank, basically, if there's like an area where there's like literally no glue, they tend to blow up on the lathe. And it doesn't happen until the end, which is really frustrating. But once it gets really thin, what happens is the blank can warp, even though it's going 3,000 RPMs. It can warp just slightly where that glue's not holding it down. The cutter grabs into it and it blows up once it just kind of reaches the limit. And it happens real quick, but it's kind of this, the cutter will just kind of dig in and then it blows it up. So drill bits, you really need to be using sharp drill bits like all the time. And it's a problem because who wants to go, we all, you got this drill bit and you're like, oh, it's a little dull, but you just keep going anyway, right? It'd be certainly nice if I could just go touch up a drill bit real quick. But I actually found, so in the Drill Doctor, people, it's like split 50-50. Half the people are like, oh, it's garbage, and half people are like, it's fine. There's enough people that don't like them that I wouldn't spend the money on it. Or my dad supposedly has one. I wanted to try it out. I wouldn't spend the money to try it, basically. You're looking at like $100 or 150 maybe for like the better one. But they're just a big plastic thing, and I can see why people have problems with them, and I don't want a frustrating thing. I'd rather just send them out. But I actually found a drill sharpening machine that a lot of people seem to like. Like, it seems pretty good. And it's not cheap, but I was kind of like, man, I mean, really, if you're sharpening bits the way you should be, or buying new ones all the time, like, I think I spent, after shipping and taxes and all that stuff, I think I could have got it cheaper, but you're looking at somewhere between $200 and $300, but it looks like the machine works really well, and it's stupid simple to use kind of thing. So I'll let you guys know how it goes. It's made by Weaver. And what I'll do is once I get one and I actually try it, I don't want to really even give links or anything like that right now because I don't know if it actually is good or not. But if it does turn out that I'm like, yeah, this thing does a good job, I'll get you links, but I'll also link to videos, like the people that, like, there's a bunch of good videos of other people using them, showing how to use it and all that stuff, that I'd rather just send you to their channels. So pretty cool. Yeah, the Drill Doctor, I don't know. I'm just, and you can do it by hand on a grinder, but I have a feeling that's something that you really got to learn. and I don't really have time to try sharpening 1,000 drill bits to get that down. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't trust the drill doctor personally. I wouldn't spend the money on something like that. I would rather send it out personally. And this is just, like I said, totally my opinion. They are cheaper, but that's the problem, is if you get the good drill doctor, you're looking at over $100. And so, and I can tell, you can just look at the build quality of the two different machines, spend like $100 more and get something that really works well. That's kind of, I'd rather just do that personally. But I don't know. I don't have any, I haven't tried a drill doctor, so I don't know. But I don't really, it doesn't really matter what you use though, but the main thing is you really do need to touch up drills probably a lot more often than you think. And it's a big deal, because it can really make or break some things sometimes, especially when they're really, like, if it's like tough to drill into stuff, like it's dull, like you need to just go get a new one kind of thing. So anyway, let's go and turn some blanks. Well, I'll stop talking. I'll stop bagging on Drill Doctor. Like I said, I've never even used one, but it's one of those things, like there's always some people that just can't figure out how to use things. Like, you know, you look at Amazon reviews and, what am I doing? But this is a case where, like, it's like 50-50. Like when it's 50-50, I would imagine that if you know the tricks, like you can get it to work, I bet, but at the same time, I bet it's maybe a little, there's probably a little frustration. That's my guess with that thing. It can be hit or miss, and I'm not interested in hit or miss. I want something that you open the box and the thing just works. The other cool thing about the one I was talking about is you can actually create split, what do they call it? Split tip or whatever. I don't know that much about drill bits necessarily, but I learned a little bit watching some videos, and that is something that I'm pretty sure that the Drill Doctor is not going to do. You can learn a lot on YouTube, you know. Okay, so we're going to turn the black one. Is that the black one? I don't know. I'm going to open up my vents here. And yeah, we're doing the darker one, the black one first. So we'll turn the dust collection on. One of the other problems, you know, I was mentioning that a couple customers had issues with a couple blanks. And one of the other problems is as nice as it is to make the round blanks. You know, I just recently switched to making the round blanks for all, like pretty much all my blanks. The biggest problem though is drilling round blanks is tough if you don't have a collet chuck. The work holding is pretty difficult. But the other issue that people run into is, you know, if you're just using like a, I don't know, there's like I don't have any of them, but there's like the pen jaws where it's like clamping down at just two spots. Those are terrible for something like this because it's going to squish it. And that, you know, I think one of the guys actually, like it broke when he was drilling it and he had too much pressure. But the problem is you got to put enough pressure so the thing doesn't spin. This one works a little bit better. This is a Barracuda, Penn State. You got these ridges that'll hold a little bit better on round blanks, but you know, the ridges are really more in and out, so it still spins. But you have to kind of find a balance between enough pressure so that it doesn't spin, but you know, not too much pressure so that it like is tweaking the thing. Especially, you know, think about it, you're drilling material out, and if it's pretty tight, it can kind of squish your blank basically. Even if you have 4 points of contact, it still isn't as good as a collet, which is coming from every direction kind of thing. they hold them better. Now, one other tip, if you're drilling round blanks and you don't have a collet chuck, what I would recommend is actually scuff the heck out of this thing with 80 grit on the outside. That will help. Another thing you can try to do is either use like a shelf liner or like leather or something like that to kind of wrap around it. That can kind of help give you a little bit more grip, you know, however you're drilling it. Another problem people have is if they're not drilling on the lathe, which I would probably recommend just going for the lathe for most of these things, but a lot of people use a drill press and then they use one of these guys. Once again, you really don't have enough points of contact. This is great for a square blank, but it's pretty terrible for a round one, something like this. There's lots of different variants of this, but it just becomes tough. Like, really, my best advice, even though I don't like giving it, is to just go buy a collet chuck. If you're gonna drill round blanks, it's just gonna make everything so much better. So there's my tips for the day. All right, let's turn this guy up. Do you guys see this thing? I didn't really set the camera up properly. Oh, I gotta open my app too. Let's check out the YouTube, see what you guys are doing. Let's see here. YouTube, my channel, New Year's pen. Oh, Chad's using a drill doctor. Well, so, you know, maybe they do work. I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't know if you can do Brad. I'd have to look into that with that other machine. Yeah, it's a great idea to have it. Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, if you're doing round blanks, the collet chuck is just so nice. And if you're gonna get into making, let's see, now that you have some, you haven't had any issues now that I've talked about it. It doesn't happen a lot. I mean, I've had problems with that, and that's why I did a video. I really, like, the work holding and the heat issue is a serious issue. Where it came up, I didn't really have too many problems personally with just a normal resin blank. Where I ran into problems was on things that had an embedded something in it. Something like my pinstripes. The problem is if you heat these up, you know, like the bond between the 3D print and the resin, even though I use the resin 3D printing stuff, it's still not excellent. Again, it's just kind of, you glued it on there, right? And so if you overheat it, the bond between the 3D print and the resin is gonna fail. But the problem is you're not gonna notice it drilling. Like, it won't show up drilling. It'll seem okay. It's not like it's gonna fall apart or break. Usually when you're drilling it out, it's gonna fall apart when you're turning it, because, like, you know, there may be some gaps or something. And so that's the reason why I do a two-step, I use two different glues when I glue tubes in. I use the thick, I just slather that all over the tube. And because the thick has a longer working time, I do that first, set the thing aside, you know, the tube. Then I come with the super fast thin and I douse the heck out of the inside of the blank with this. And the reason I came up with that method was, like I said, because of blanks like these that I was turning, and I did a lot of other stuff with Dunkin' Junk where you got materials where there's a bond between the resin and whatever that material is. And so the theory that I had was, you know, you've got a hole in this thing, you drill it out, And you know, let's assume this was an actual like blank without a tube in it. If you douse the inside of the blank with that super fast thin, that stuff through capillary action, it'll suck the glue into any little gaps. So if there are any areas where the bond isn't very good, there's a little gap in there, that super fast thin stuff will glue it back together basically, and you're gonna get less issues. So that's what I always recommend on mixed materials. Douse the inside of the blank with that super fast thin, and you're gonna, you know, it's not gonna save you from like every catastrophe, but it's certainly going to give you a leg up. And once I started doing that, I never actually had a blank blow up on me on the lathe. And just because the system seemed to work for like the mixed material blanks, I just said, screw it, I'm gonna even douse the inside of a normal resin blank that doesn't have anything embedded in it, just for the heck of it, because it certainly isn't gonna hurt anything. Now, the one caveat, if you're doing wood blanks, I don't recommend using CA glue on those. I've had too many tubes, or you know, tubes get glued halfway in and the stuff sets up on you. And wood blanks don't have as many issues with like the bond, the glue bond, I don't find. Because they're, you know, like the surface of wood is porous. There's all kinds of little places for the epoxy or whatever kind of glue to kind of grab into. So you just don't have as many issues with those as you do with a solid surface. Not as much for it to grab on. I'm using the wrong glasses. I was like, I can't even see. What's going on here? I gotta get my reader safety glasses. Oh my God, I can see the blank now. Wow. Now we're gonna have to do a CA finish on these guys, I would imagine. When you put like larger chunks of glitter, and or if you put just a ton of glitter, like I sell glitter blanks, and they are literally packed to the gills with glitter. And the problem is, and it's like a tinsel glitter. Problem is, when you've got a lot of glitter chunks on the outside, those things don't polish through, you know, the same ways, or like really any way that you can polish stuff. If you put a CA finish over top of it, it'll bring it back to life and look nice and glossy and shiny, and your glitter will do its glitter stuff again. All right, so let's stop this and look. We still got a little ways to go. I wanted to stop and look at this thing and see what we got going on here. Got to turn the light down. There we go. So it's looking pretty fireworks-ish. The larger chunks of glitter, you might see there's a little bit of a tear out. They tend to rip out sometimes. So just be kind of aware of that. Kind of lost a lot of that color change stuff, but everything else looks good. That's a big chunk right there. That'll probably turn away. We do have a few little tear out things. Again, that's another reason why you want to put CA finish on top, because you might have little bits where, you know, something popped out. One thing that I'm actually going to do, I'm using a standard cutter right now. I think I'm actually going to switch it out for a negative rake. I think you're going to get better results. And I don't know, it depends. Possibly less tear out. We'll see. I could go two ways on that. The standard cutter cuts more, you get more of like an actual cutting action, whereas the negative rake cutters are more of a scrape. That's why they're so, you know, why they handle things. They're not really cutting it. They don't grab. But so like the scraping action may actually want to try and pull more of the stuff out, possibly. There's a slight possibility of that, but I don't know. I think it might. Let's just give it a shot and see what it does. See what the chat's having. Yeah, yeah, the vertical pores, the outside is just totally, you know, because you get one little layer, whatever rolls down the sides of the tube is what the outside's going to look like. They look like garbage until you turn into them sometimes. Hey, Christopher Christmas, how's it going? Happy New Year. Yeah, CA glue fixes everything. It's literally like the duct tape of pen turning. Ooh, that thing's dull. Okay, I might need to get a new cutter here. Let's see if the other side works. There we go. Still pretty dull. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna pop open a new cutter. This thing's seen better days. It's the one disadvantage to the, oh shoot, where did I drop that to? To the negative rakes, you can't, I mean, maybe there's some way you can sharpen them, but I think you'd have to have some kind of crazy contraption to do that. Where's my negative rake ones? Luckily, I have a stock, luckily they last a good long time, but even still, be nice to be able to sharpen them. All right, a brand new, genuine, Easy Wood Tools negative rake cutter. There's nothing better than a fresh cutter. Yeah, sometimes I mean, they just literally look like garbage. You're like, oh my God, what did I do? And then you turn into it and you're like, wow, what was going on there? Oh yes, that's what it's supposed to sound and look like. I'm all about learning how to sharpen things. I finally decided that it was time for me to learn how to sharpen knives. I can sharpen a chisel and a plane iron like no other. They're not that hard. But when it came to two angles, you know, the easy thing about the chisels, you got a flat back, so like half of the process is just simple. Just slap it down on the stone or whatever and just flatten the back. It's not, you know, that's easy. And then the angle is easy because you just put it in an angle guide and they're cheap and easy to use and everything's pretty simple. I always had a problem with two angles. But once again, I decided to refer to YouTube and I found a pretty cool guy that does everything about sharpening. So I learned a little bit about what was going on, how I need to do things, and realistically for like utility knives and stuff, I gotta be honest, doing it just freehand on a stone is by far it's fine. plenty. I did buy a contraption for doing like the kitchen knives. I would rather just kind of make sure that I'm getting equal angles on both sides and all that stuff. But for the most part, I mean, it really isn't that hard to do it just kind of freehand. And you don't have to get all crazy with it. You can pretty much get away with a pretty coarse stone and a strop and you're pretty much done. You'll be cutting things pretty fast. So now that I know how to sharpen knives, I got to make some knives. I still owe Gretchen a chef's knife. Had a little bit of a debacle not this Christmas, but last Christmas. All right, that's looking pretty good, I think. So I haven't done any CA finishes for quite a while, so hopefully, I don't know, hopefully I can share something that's useful on the way that I do it. Now, I leave the dust collector running when I'm using CA glue, that way it sucks the fumes out of here. Now, the thing is, I'm not sure if this would work if you had a dust collector sitting right next to your, you know, like the standard one with just like the bag on top that doesn't really do a whole lot of good for trapping the fine particles. But I don't know if the fume would just kind of come in and blow right back out at you there. But my dust collector is away from me, so it works pretty well. However, I think, so I got some new ones. If the fumes irritate you, one thing that you can do, Bob Smith and a bunch of brands offer something that doesn't smell. And you know, if you're allergic to like the chemical itself, this may not help anything. But I found that it was a whole lot nicer using that stuff. I think it's the Gold Plus or something like that, Super Gold Plus from Bob Smith. That stuff was pretty good. It wasn't as irritating with the smell. I don't have that on hand, but I do have. I wanted to try this for a long time. So Turner's is selling like a finish. So I got the medium and the thin. I was using the mercury and it worked fine, but I thought I wanted to try this other stuff out. So we're gonna give that a shot today. I also got their accelerator as well, so it should go pretty good. But the first step here is we got to sand this guy down, get it all smooth. And so what I do is I usually go to about 1,000 grit. In this case, yeah, so I got to be honest, I really haven't turned or sanded and done a CA finish in a very long time. I don't think I've done it since I switched the way that I sand stuff to the wet sanding. So we're gonna probably go to the green because I did things a little bit differently. What I would maybe typically do before is I'd probably go up to 1,000 grit with the black stuff, but I think that the green should handle that. Like that should probably be enough. What I don't recommend is going up to like the nth degree. You don't want to get this thing so smooth and shiny before you put a CA finish on that the glue doesn't stick to it. This is a theory. Let me know if anybody else has any thoughts about this, but like if you went up to like 4,000 grit, definitely don't put any polish or buffing rouge on, but even if you just sanded way up all the way through, you know, like the what is this stuff called? The Zona. If you got a really glossy finish, I don't think that the CA is going to stick that well. So I usually just go to about 1,000 and I'm done. The CA is going to fill in the 1,000 grit scratch marks. You're not going to see them. So I don't see the point in going much higher. Realistically, I might be able to get away with just 600. I don't know. What do you guys do for yours, the sanding before you finish stuff? Let me know what you guys think. But you do need to sand it first, of course. Got to get the surface nice and smooth, otherwise your CA finish is going to look not very great. Wicked Edge. I got something from this company, Sharpal. That's where I got the stones too. They had some really economical diamond stones. And so I bought those first and thought, okay, I'm going to give the freehand thing a shot. Worst case scenario, I can use the stone. I kind of needed to get new diamond stones for, just sharpening in general. So I figured, if I decide that hand sharpening is just not for me, I didn't really waste any money on that. But I did find that it is weird, and it takes a little bit. You got to do a little bit of practicing with it, but it's not that hard, really, to get these good enough results to sharpen your knife again. The better you get at it, the longer the edge will, edge retention will last and all that. Instaflex. Oh, this stuff's low order too. Nice. That's what I like to hear. Not a big fan of the smell of CA glue. Like I said, the dust collector actually fixes the problem for me. Another reason why I actually like leaving the dust collector on is it sucks dust away, right? So one issue that, it's not that big of a deal usually, but one issue you can have is if there's dust in your shop, it can land in the finish or on the blank before you put the finish on. And I find that this thing, even though the other side of the story is you could say, well, it's sucking more dust towards your blank maybe, but in fact, I think I'm actually going to move this back just a little bit. It doesn't need to be right up on it. Oh, I lost my paper. That's the problem with the dust collector. It'll suck your paper right in there. Got to keep a hand on that. But it seems to keep the blanks clean when I'm doing the finishes. I don't know. Do you guys ever run into an issue with dust getting in your pen finishes? I know the CA cures fast, so maybe it's not as much of an issue, but I just usually leave it running, and I've done it without it running, and I'm like, I can see particles and stuff floating around. So let's see, Herald dry sands is 600, and Zona. Well, no, so what do you guys do when you do a CA finish? Not polishing. Oh, you do 400 then CA. 600. Maybe I'll just stop at 600 then. Oh yeah, the skew chisel, that can be a pain. Then CA. Sounds like a lot of people do this. I'm actually kind of surprised. I thought this might be one of those everybody kind of has their own specific numbers and grits and different things, but it sounds like a lot of people do kind of the same thing. Yeah, well, I don't put a CA finish on. If it's just a resin blank, that's just a waste of time. You just need to polish it. But in this case, the reason I'm doing it is because the glitter chunks that are on the outside, they're larger chunks. And I mean, I guess I could try to just polish this and see what it looks like, but I have a feeling there's a good enough amount and there's enough of these particles on the kind of near the outside that those are not going to polish. The other thing is there's a couple little tear out spots, not too many, but glitter tends to, you know, it's not a particularly great bond. It's like a shiny plastic, you know, surface. Oh, I was gonna just stop at 600. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm actually just gonna leave it at 600. Give it kind of like a light 600. But yeah, so just because I'm a little, I want to make sure that we really get some good shine on these glitter chunks. So we'll put this guy away for now. And then when once I have the CA finish on, I'll just level it probably again with 600 and then go through my normal, you know, if it was just a resin blank process. Instaflex, guys, I'm super excited. So I'm kind of for putting on a couple coats of the thin. I've always just kind of defaulted to that. I have converted. I used to just put like a bunch of coats of thin on because you can get it on really, really smooth. Or I could. The problem with CA finishes is, can you get it on smooth or not? And I always had problems with the medium when I first started. So I just put on like, you know, 10 coats of thin and I was like pretty much good to go. Now, I've kind of converted though to adding medium because it kind of builds up a little bit faster. So you only really need a couple coats of that, probably, maybe 3. And that should be enough. But I will say I haven't done a CA finish in a very long time. So we'll see how it goes. So first thing, I'm gonna just, whoa, that stuff's pretty thin. Just gonna put this on, wipe it a little bit, and on the first coat, I don't like using the, well, we'll have to see how this goes because this is actually, I believe the Instaflex, that's the one that's made for finishes. Chad, let me know if you're really supposed to use the accelerator with both of them all the time. I know that's, like I said, I'm learning, like I kind of knew how I did things before, but when I was using the Mercury, these things, the thin flex and the medium flex, you really needed to use the accelerator. Like you had to use it for it to like cure properly. Usually when I would do the thin coats, the first ones, again, that's going back to that idea where I was talking about with the blank, you know, gluing blanks together. Typically I actually like using the super fast thin from Starbond to let it penetrate in, and this is actually what I would usually use to do this step. Let it penetrate in. If there's any little cracks or anything like that that are really not visible, but this stuff will seep into, it'll kind of fill that up. Then I would go to my thin flex, like the actual finish, and start just building layers up. But again, I'm not totally familiar with this stuff. This is very thin. That was very thin. The Mercury Thin Flex is a little bit thicker. So I'm actually kind of curious to see how this medium, I think the medium is going to be more similar to the Thin Flex from Mercury. Oh, even on the thin? That was very thin. Well, it's probably cured pretty well, but I'll just hit it real quick. So I hit it with just to make sure everything's cured. All right, so I'm just going to do a couple coats of this thin. That stuff's, for a finish, that stuff's way thinner than I'm used to. And I don't really think it's going to build up a lot. So I think this is going to be my go-to here, this medium. Like I said, I do like to put a couple layers down of the thin stuff just to kind of fill in anything that might be there. For some of those little pinholes though, I am going to have to probably kind of, I might even have to come back and like spot fill them. And I haven't done a CA finish in a long time, guys. I gotta be honest. It feels actually kind of funny. All right, David, have a good one. Happy New Year. Oh, a hemp blank. Yeah, those things can be kind of a pain. Now, the one thing with, I don't use like the finished bushings. I just crack it off. It works fine. But if you're not going to use the plastic bushings, you do need to watch out. Like you'll probably glue your blank to your bushings. So just be aware of that. I got a pretty simple solution that hasn't failed me yet. It looks like I got to pop the tip of this thing. Let me look at this bottle here. Like I said, I haven't used these yet because I haven't had to do a CA finish. That doesn't seem to want to open. Hopefully I can just cut the tip here. Yeah, okay. Now, what I do is usually, we'll have to see if I have to change the, yeah, this stuff is perfect. So I just put a little bit on, wipe it, get off of it, cut my little strip off that has the glue on it, and then I hit it with accelerator. And then I let it dry a little bit, that accelerator. We'll have to see, like I said, I had everything down with the mercury. I knew how it operated, so we'll have to kind of see how this stuff, each glue is a little bit different. And I like to use like just the back of my finger. So that feels dry, but there's definitely a lot of that. I think I used way too much of the accelerator. I would use a lot more of the mercury accelerator, so I think I'm going to wipe it off a little bit. I just don't need that much. And then we'll go for round 2 here. Like I said, the way that I best figured out how to do this is put a little bit on the paper towel. Now, the one dumb thing about this is the paper towel is going to absorb some of it. I don't know. It's just, this seems to work for me. What I like about that is you're putting on a pretty thin coat, but the way that I do it is I just pretty lightly am just trying to smooth it out really quickly in like 2 passes and then I'm done. Where I would run into issues is I'm sitting there like rubbing it in and doing all this stuff and the thing's setting up on me and it's just not good the way that I used to do it. like when I first started. When I realized that you just kind of a quick thing, get out, you know, get the paper towel off of there. That's when I started getting pretty good at doing these things. So let's see here. Mercury polymer clay blanks. Ah, that's nice. Yeah, I really recommend using. So this is, you know, the flex style. Whether you're using this one, which I got to be honest, I really like this stuff, and I think I'm guessing it's pretty much cheaper than Mercury too. But this is very reminiscent of. This is actually like perfect. I don't need anything else, I don't think, because I started using the thin flex. I would lay down a few coats with the thin flex of Mercury, and I started to, like I said, I don't do a lot of CA finishes, but I started using the medium flex also, and then I would kind of build up more, you know, quicker layers with the medium flex. What I really like about this is like right in between the viscosity, the thickness of the thin flex and medium flex. Like it's like the perfect in the middle. Like I don't need two things. This is going to do it all. The problem I had with the thin flex is you had to put a lot of coats on because it was pretty thin. You know, and I'm talking about the thin flex from Mercury, this stuff. I liked it because it was a little thicker than like thin CA glue or whatever. But the flex ones, going back to that, I really recommend if you're putting a finish on a pen, if you're using glue for like, you know, I use the super fast thin, this stuff. This is just I don't use it for finishing, to put like a coat of something on top of something else. I use this for like repairs and things and like letting it soak into stuff. I'm using it as a glue, and that's what this is good at. I don't recommend using just the normal CA glues to do finishes. You want to grab something that is made to be a finish that can flex with any like moisture issues or heat, cold, you know, temperature differences, because you can run into cracking if you don't use something that's specifically made to be a top coat finish on something. And so this one is another, you know, this is meant to be a finish. So yeah, I like this stuff. This is good. Low odor, that is also true. Like I said, I use the dust collector to not get odors, like to suck the odors away when I'm using this stuff anyway. But in fact, I think I'm going to turn it off real quick, and I'm just going to see without that thing running, because I also feel like I'm yelling at you guys. Oh, the quiet is so peaceful. I'm going to turn it off and just see how I feel about this, because I don't even know if you're sensitive, I don't know if like I had to really shove my nose into the bottle to smell it. And this spray stuff smells really pretty. What does that smell like? It smells good. Let's see here. Knock the ridges down. Yeah. Oh, with 60 grit? Ooh. Maybe you meant 600. I don't think I'd... Oh, it sounds like it's raining outside. That means there's snow in the mountains, guys. I'm going snowboarding on Thursday. First time in like 2 years. Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know, the Glue Boost thing, but man, that stuff is so expensive. Seen it, but I haven't tried it. And I'm just like, man, I just can't imagine that it works so much better that I need it. I'm pretty sure it's more expensive, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like it was like super expensive. I could be wrong about that though. But I have heard good things about the Glue Boost. I just don't personally, you know, I've been fine with the results that I get with my CA, with, you know, what I was using. So I'm like, eh. But I was curious about this stuff because it's very similar to what I was using already. And I like it. I think it will replace the mercury that I was using. Like I said, it's. I feel like this is kind of splitting the difference between the two thicknesses, and it just kind of works perfect. Let's see. I'm gonna put on. I usually put on like, I don't know, seven coats maybe, 5 to 7. I don't know how many I've even put on at this point. Talking. Go figure. I'm talking. Let's see here. Yeah, the mediums tend to be very slow dry. This stuff, I mean, like, yeah, I'm hitting it with one shot. That was the other thing, I guess, you know, like I said, originally for many, many years, I would use this. And I feel like, I haven't used this in a while, but I feel like this is a little bit thinner than this. The mercury seems thinner than the Instaflex here. And it was nice because it set up fast, and I could run through and put on, you know, a good amount of coats pretty quick, and I would kind of leave it at that. I wouldn't put a big thick thing on with it for a lot of years, and I always never got good results with the medium. But then I saw, like, kind of looked into it a little bit more, and a couple people explained how they use it. Tried it again, and I started kind of liking it because it built up faster. I didn't have to do as many coats, but it didn't, that was one thing I noticed. It didn't really set up very fast. So, you know, it's kind of like, do you want to wait for it to dry, or do you want to just put on more coats kind of thing? But this seems to, again, this seems to kind of bridge the gap. Like, it sets up fast, and it's like right in the middle of those two viscosities. You know, the thickness of it, it's like kind of right in the middle. Very nice. I'm very happy with this stuff. I think this is the last coat here. I don't think we need to put any more on. You need to put enough on so that you're not going to burn through when you sand down the ridges. But I don't really think you need to put like 50,000 coats of CA on anything. If you're efficient with your sanding, just sand enough to get it flat and then polish. You shouldn't really need to put on thousands of coats. I think I would usually put on about 7 to 10 if I was only using the thin flex. That's it. And then I would probably stop at, like, you know, a couple coats of the thin flex. Then I might hit it with like 2 coats of medium, and I might finish off go back to the thin flex. Like I said, I gotta be honest, like it's been like a year or more since I've done a CA finish. It's been that long. But I think I would maybe come back with the thin flex, maybe even sand back the medium, because it would kind of build up and be kind of a little bit more lumpy sometimes. Sometimes I would finish off with something thinner to just kind of lay down a pretty even coat. Then you don't have to sand as much. If you got a bunch of ridges on there, you're going to be sanding for a while. And the problem is you're going to take off, you need to put on more finish because you're taking off, you're going to end up kind of getting into some of the troughs. You know, there's going to be some areas that are thinner. So I like this. Let's see. So we're going back to the wet sanding. I'm going to hit it with some 600. I'm going to stop and look at this real quick. Yeah, I got it on pretty good. I don't have big ridges or anything, which I expected, because the thicker it is, the harder it is, I find, to... What I found with the medium, because I would always get like massive ridges, and it just felt like I'm sanding off and then putting more on and doing all this, so I never used the medium, the thicker ones. But what I figured out is you got to put a little bit more pressure down if you're using the thicker stuff. Like, you gotta, because I would just do a very light pass. I'm not even barely putting pressure down. And I could get it on very even and smooth. You know, there's just little lines where it just kind of went around, but there's nothing, it doesn't feel bumpy. I like that stuff. That stuff worked pretty good. So let's do a little bit of wet sanding here. Sometimes dry sanding that first coat after doing a CA finish can be useful, because you can see the shiny spots still. The problem is I wouldn't really recommend using the silicon carbide paper, this wet sand stuff, the black stuff. to dry sand. The grit particles are so dense that there's really nowhere for the dust to go. And it's just not the greatest thing to sand dry. So, you know, pull out something else. Abranet is a good one to sand with dry. But you're probably best off just kind of doing a little sanding if you're going to do it wet like I'm doing, and then literally dry it off and take a peek at what, you know, are there a bunch. If you see shiny spots, those are low spots that you need to do more work on. And I'm not really seeing a couple little spots, but they're not big. So I think that's plenty. I think it's flat. I don't need to do a lot of sanding with 600. Like, frankly, I probably could have just started with this green and been on my way. It would probably be, you know, aggressive enough to knock down the very thin ridges that I had. We'll just do a little bit with this. And again, I'm not going to over sand the heck out of this thing. I just, enough sanding. I don't want to take a bunch of material off. And then I'm going to do this. And then we're going to move on to the gray. Got to get a fresh piece. And then we'll go to our magic juice. Now, before I go to the magic juice though, again, I'm using the bushings, the original metal bushings. And a lot of people might be like, you're crazy. The problem that I have with the finish bushings is they're generally conical, and so, which is nice because you can get away with using like one set for like all different sizes, different pen kits. It's not like you have to have a specific bushing, you know, to put a finish on, you know, like a Sierra or a cigar, like different ones for each one. That's the nice thing, but the problem is I don't like those big things because of the way that I do this. It's easier for me to have these flat bushings. Everything works a lot better. So I don't really like those things, and I don't really want to have a bunch of different plastic bushings just to put finishes on. So I just use the bushings as they are, metal, and you're going to see in a second, I can pretty much guarantee you that this, at least one side of this thing is probably glued on to one of the bushings, okay? But pretty easy way to get that fixed, but I recommend fixing it before you get to the end. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take it off the lathe here. I'm going to back the camera up just a little bit so you can see this trash can out of the way. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to flip the thing so I can tell if I'm on camera. I'm actually going to go back a little bit. Like I said, I haven't done a CA finish for so long. The muscle memory's gone. So what I do, and let's just take a peek here. So yeah, they're pretty glued on, right? All I do is give it a tap, and that cracks it without typically, I don't think it's ever happened to me. Technically doing that, you could crack your finish on the blank. I don't think it's ever happened to me. This other one popped right out also, all right? But just give it, and you don't even have to like smack it. I think I did, I think it was a little bit rough on that. Usually you can just kind of lightly tap it, and unless you've built up like 20 layers of medium, that should be plenty to crack it off. Now the problem is at this point, it's not like it cracked perfectly on the edge. You've got some little chunks of CA glue hanging off your edge. If I was to mount this to put the pieces, you know, the pen kit together on this thing and press it in, guarantee you I will crack the finish because there's little chunks, jagged chunks hanging off. So you want to sand that down. I've devised a magical solution to this because I just so happen to have, the first lathe that I ever used was my dad's Shopsmith. It was the worst lathe on the planet, but it had this mandrel to use with the Shopsmith that was absolutely perfect. So what I did was I just cut a piece of Abranet, it doesn't matter what it is, but just sandpaper. I used a hole punch to punch a hole, and then I just go down, you know, the thing. Now there may be other mandrels that work this way that are similar, but this thing had this, the way that this is set up, it's got this like flat 90-degree thing, and it was just like the perfect thing. So all I do, lightly, I'm not pushing hard on this thing, but I just want to sand square the edge of this thing. That way I don't have any chunks. And you can, once you've gotten the edges off, you can kind of give it a little bit of pressure, but you want to kind of make sure that you get any jagged chunk. You don't want to like rip it off and then scratch your finish. So hopefully I'm on the camera here. So just give it, and I'm pressing down. The force is actually pressing down so that it's 90. I don't want to also sand in a weird angle on this thing, so I'm trying to maintain the 90 degrees by pushing down on this thing more while I rotate, and then a little pressure in to get a nice square edge. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can take something like a 1000, or maybe the gray, and just kind of round this over. If you're really worried, usually you don't need to do this step, but it ain't gonna hurt anything. I'm just kind of pushing over, making sure that there's no sharp edge there. I think I would usually use like 1000 grit, but this gray should work fine. All right, and so we got that thing ready. Now I got to put it back on the lathe. But before you do that, one other thing, there's probably little jagged bits on this guy. So you want to make sure that you've just kind of cleaned anything off of the edge of this thing. The other thing you can do is you could just dunk this in a little jar of acetone. That'll dissolve the CA. But for right now, all I need to do is just make sure there's no chunks hanging off that are going to dig into my blank, the finish on the blank. And then we're going to put it back on, and we're going to polish it. I like to do this glue step. I mean, realistically, I could even see you doing this right after like the first 600 to get the ridges down, because you don't want to crack the finish at the end. That's why I recommend before you start polishing this and doing all this stuff, do this, get the glue off step, because there's nothing worse than cracking the finish at the end. That would make me really mad. The pen blank may go flying across the shop at that point. Okay, so there we go. I don't know, hopefully that helps. It's a little bit kind of crazy, but it's looking explosive. Yeah, there's a little red dot in here. There's all kinds of little things. I think it worked pretty well for fireworks. Not bad. There might be a little chip thing right there. I'm not gonna look at it. We'll put the clip over that part. Now what are we doing? We're doing magic juice. Okay. I'm not particularly fast at doing any of this stuff in the first place, but when I'm explaining things, it goes really slow. I can do this a lot faster if I'm not talking. But I like to explain why I do things, because I don't just do things. I generally think about like what's going on, and then how can I avoid problems? What could I do that might avoid the finish cracking if I'm, putting it together and things like that. And I like to understand what's going on as much as I can as well, so that you can formulate like a game plan as to like how to get the best results or the least. What I got to be honest, what I focus on is getting the least mistakes. I don't want to have to do things 3 times if I possibly don't have to, So I like the lathe run around 1500 when I'm using the magic juice. It's a good balance for me. I think because it's so dry here, If I got it going 2000, which I think they recommend in the instructions to have the lathe going like 2000 RPMs, I find that it just dries out really fast. And it doesn't seem like it's really working. 15, like a little bit slower speed gives me a little bit more time to actually use I feel like the polish is actually doing something more at the slower speeds. And I'm guessing it has to do with how dry it is in my shop. I don't know, but. All right, so we got our step one. Let's see, what's going on? Scrolling down, scrolling down. Just give it a little tap. Tap, tap, taparoo. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people like those plastic bushing things. I can't, the way that I put the finish on, they always seem to be in the way. So I never understood that. I'm not sure how people do it. I guess. I don't know. I just figured just leave the bushings on and pop the blank off. See how fast that it just seems like, is the polish doing anything? That number two really dries fast sometimes. Again though, guys, you can, if you're finding that, if you feel like your magic juice is really dry, or especially if it like dries out like fully, like it seems like it's dead or something, you can just add a little bit of water back into it. It's water-based. It's a water-based product. And I got this straight from Michael Harding. He makes this stuff. Water-based stuff, you just add a little bit more water. So don't ever throw away jars, which I have done this. Don't throw away your magic juice just because it kind of dried up in the bottle. Just add a little water, you rejuvenate it, and it's fine. I feel like an idiot now that I like threw an entire set away. I mean, it was actually pretty low, but I mean, it could have kept going, you know? I didn't realize it. Oh, this is looking pretty good, guys. This is pretty good. I'm digging it. Let's see here. Yeah, hobby blade. I've tried cutting them like that. And I didn't get good results, let's just say. Yeah, the rain's coming down. Better be getting some good snow up in the mountains. I gotta wax my snowboard today. Get myself ready for the mountain. We had a horrible start to the snow season, the ski season. We had like nothing. I mean, like most of the places had like one run, like up until Christmas. That's not good. Some of them possibly, I didn't even look because we hadn't even gotten any snow. I was like, I don't even care what the snow report is because there's nothing to report on. I bet a bunch of them didn't even open until after Christmas up here. I don't know. Not a good start. That's all I got to say. So hopefully we'll have a good finish to this season. Because I don't really like snowboarding on rocks. It's just not in my top 5 things that I like doing. Tried it once. Didn't like it. What's up with Dexter? Oh no. Heal up fast, Dex. Ideally, it would be nice if I had HDPE bushings for all, like every pen kit, and I could swap them out. That would be awesome. I just can't see messing with it. And like I said, this method, I haven't lost a blank yet to a cracked finish doing the tapping thing. I have lost a blank pressing it together before I started using that little trick with the pen mandrel thing. I have cracked a finish on the pen press. Then I realized what happened, you know, or whatever. And I started using that thing, sanding off the end, the edges of the blank there or whatever. I don't think I've ever actually had it crack on the blank when I just do the tap thing. No snow in, yeah, Colorado has been terrible too, which is crazy because a lot of years I'm sitting staring at you know, like the weather report. Like Tahoe just doesn't. We're in the middle of stuff a lot of times, and like every once in a while we will just get a massive winter. But lately, we really haven't been getting very big winters. We had a gigantic one, like, I mean, this was record breaking for like decades. I would probably maybe about 5 years ago at this point, 4 or 5, something. But you know, a lot of times, like, we're in the middle where like the Pacific Northwest or the Rockies gets just dumped on all winter, or it goes like kind of south for some reason, like somewhere south gets it. And so, I don't know, a lot of years I'm always watching the Rockies, and I'm like, oh, they got the snow again. This year, man, Colorado and Tahoe just got nothing. I don't think I've ever seen that before. All right, so we got our 6 steps here. Man, that does look pretty good. I like all this glitter chunks. And so going back to it, the reason that I wanted to go with like a more transparent black, I wanted it to be depth. I wanted to be able to really see deeper into this blank because I'm using all this glitter. And if you put too much of that black dye in, you'll see stuff on the surface, you know, the glitter, but you're not going to see much deeper in there. But I mean, technically I can't see the tube, I don't think, but technically I think that you can see. I think I nailed the transparency on this pretty well. There's a little bit, maybe could have gone actually a little bit more. I'm not sure. I'd need to look. I did 2 different amounts. There's like maybe like a little bit of a glue splotch right there. It's not really visible. Like I'm like microscoping this thing. It doesn't look bad. I am actually going to pull out the high magnification glasses. I want to kind of see what's going on in here. Mainly because I'd like to be able to kind of nail down yeah, there's a little glue splotch down there. I don't know, guys. If you want a perfect blank, if you want this to be like perfect, I might recommend going for painting the inside of the blank. Because I am seeing glue splotches. A couple of them. It's kind of crazy though. I'm guessing that I have like really good glue coverage on most of the blank, but I got a good area where there's not as much. There's kind of a splotch there and a splotch there. But otherwise, the black is pretty dark, actually. It's kind of weird. So yeah, if you're going for perfection and you're doing a tubed kit, you know, kit pen, I think I might recommend painting the inside of the blank on these. You're just going to get it. It's going to be perfect if you do that. Again, though, I mean, none of this, let me take it off the lathe and kind of show you guys. Hopefully you can see. Sorry. I'm not really sharing much here. I'm not sure if the camera's going to really pick this stuff up, though. That's why, I mean, I had to pull out magnification, 10 times magnification lenses to kind of really see this. But maybe it will come through. Let's see, where's the... I don't know if this, there's like a thin area, splotchy area at the top here. I'm not sure, maybe that angle, like right there. It's much darker around there, but then like you get to here and it is like thinner looking, like more transparent. So I probably could have added a little bit more black and still gotten the same effect, but I don't know if you can tell though. I mean, there is a lot of depth. The reason there's so many particles is because of the depth. If you go too heavy on the black dye, a lot of the ones that are like deeper, closer to the tube, probably wouldn't really be showing up. I don't know, that's pretty fireworksy. I feel like that's fireworks. What do you guys think? I like that. That's a good one. I think it's going to go really well with that blue kit too. Okay, so enough talking. Let's go back and finish up the second guy. Get this rolling here, you know? Rolling. Oh, Flag's not getting, yeah, I'd imagine there. I think Flagstaff tends to be in a, I don't know. A lot of times I think they tend to get what Tahoe gets. Sometimes. I'm not 100% sure about how like the weather patterns go, but I think that if we get a decent storm, it seems like Flagstaff does too. Or like a good season or, you know, whatever. I don't know. I'll have to look into that more. Utah also sometimes kind of sort of matches us. They're also very similar to the Rockies, but I don't know. All right, I'm gonna take the gloves off. Gloves are coming off, guys. The gloves are coming off. Yeah, but the only problem with adding color to the glue is you're still seeing the glue splotch. Like you're still, it's not fixing it totally. That it will fix it a little better, but I still think that it wouldn't have fixed this problem. Like if you want to have it perfect, the only way to do that is to paint the inside of the blank. It's going to be the best way to get it to where there's not. Now you got to get the paint on even and all that stuff. But that's by far the best way that I've found to if you're dealing with transparent stuff, and especially if you're going for like really transparent, like see-through, like clear, you're gonna have to do something about the inside. You can't just really add dye to glue or just paint the tube in some cases. These are not that transparent, like I said, and you could get away with just painting the tubes. Like this blank looks fine. I don't think I would hand this, you know, when we get the pen done, I don't think I would hand it, even, I could hand this to Gretchen and I don't even think she would spot any problems with it. And while she doesn't make pens, she understands enough. I've talked to her about things like she's, you know, she's knowledgeable, but not like, if I handed it to another pen maker, somebody probably could point it out if he really looked hard. That's, you know what I mean? But I think most normal people wouldn't notice any difference. If you want it perfect though, I think you're going to want to go for the inside of the blank. Do I use spray paint? Yeah, that's my favorite way. I learned that from somebody on one of the streams. There's a couple different ways. You can just literally take a spray can and just spray the heck out of the inside. The problem is you're going to build up more than you need if you just spray in there. So a pretty good way to do it is actually just grab yourself like a paper cup or whatever, some sort of a, you know, plastic or paper cup. Grab your spray paint can and just spray a good amount down, you know, like not you don't need to fill it up, just, but you know, spray a blob grab a Q-tip or paintbrush even, and then get it on there, and just you can paint, you know, using the beauty of the spray paint is it's very thin. So you're not adding, like, that's the problem with like acrylics, and there's other things that it's such a thick thing that you're adding in there that sometimes you almost need to drill a bigger hole than you normally would for it to work right. Tagged my bushing there. I think it's just there's still a layer of CA glue, so I don't think I actually cut into the the bushing itself, but it left a mark. All right, this thing's looking pretty good here. Clean off that glue. All right, I think that's good. Stop it, see what we got going on here. So again, this one's the one that had a bunch of the macro sparkle stuff in it. May not really look like a lot right now. We may have to kind of wait till we... Oh, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. There's a lot of color. So that's, yeah, okay. I think we just went with, I don't think we put the color shift stuff in this one. I want to look. I can't remember what I did now. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I didn't take very good notes, I'm going to be honest. So the first, yeah, okay. So the first one had the color shift powders from that Color Creator brand. The second one was just the Galactic Ghost. And we use like a, what do we use? I think like a red, maybe purple or red and blue Galactic Ghost. This thing looks pretty cool. It's kind of fireworkish too. And then we put glitter in, of course. Not as much glitter though. We were going for more of the macro in this one. Very interesting. I think this thing's going to look pretty good too. I wasn't sure how, you know, what was going to happen with this one, because if I had to pick one, if I had to choose one, I would have picked the darker one before we turned them, just the way the outside of the blank looked. But this is actually looking pretty cool now. I've found I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, guys. The black CA glue is like, I don't like it. It's like, it's like rubbery. I don't know. I've never really had very good luck with that stuff. Maybe whatever I had was bad. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, but it's not like a normal CA glue, I don't find. You could add black mica. I think you're better off adding dye, probably. It's probably going to work better, and you use less, but it's going to give you more effect. But you have to be careful with how much you add. That's the thing. Like, you know, just like a pinprick kind of thing. What am I doing? I need gloves. So very, very small amount. But I would probably just go with the dye. Okay, so we're gonna sand. Wet sand was 600. That seemed to work just fine. I don't see any reason to go any higher. Grit, which is kind of what sometimes, yeah. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a CA finish, guys. I think sometimes I would just stop at 4. I used to use Abernet 400, and I think sometimes I would just stop there. Maybe go to 600. I was actually wrong. I don't think I usually went to 1,000. I think 600 was as high as I would usually go. Sometimes I would even just literally stop at 400. So I think this is a better, you know, this is good, 600. All right, Bob. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining the fun. So with this one, I don't know if I really need to do a CA finish. I'm going to try and just polish this up, because a lot of the stuff that's in here is actually just mica, you know, like the Galactic Ghost stuff. And I think I can get away with not having to do a CA finish on this one. And I'm also just kind of curious to see how it turns out. I do still think on those other ones, there's a lot of, we put a lot of glitter in those. I would recommend for the Pen Blank Club folks that you do a CA finish on the darker black ones, if that's what, you know, half of you will get this one, half will get the first one. So if you get the one that's, you know, a lot of glitter, black looking, I'd recommend doing the CA finish on it. You're going to get the best, you know, looking finish, you know, results. On this one, I'm very curious to see if you really need to do that or not. I really don't think you do. So we're going to try and just polish it up real quick. Actually, what am I doing? So we're going to do the full sanding steps instead of the CA. So let me stop this and look at what I got. Just make sure everything's smooth. I'm going to do this real quick, and then we're going to just go up, do the green zona, gray zona, and then magic juice. And let's see how this turns out. I'm kind of curious. I think it's going to be fine. And if you end up, you know, maybe I just happen to pick a blank that doesn't have a lot of glitter in it. But if you've got a lot of big chunks of glitter that seem to be close to the surface, I would probably recommend just going for the CA finish and make sure that you get those little shiny glitter things to sparkle. Otherwise, they don't polish. You can't really polish Mylar paper stuff, whatever it's made out of. It just doesn't really polish well. You need to put something on top of it, and that it'll bring back that shininess, that look, the glittery look that we all love. But I don't think that you really need to worry so much about the polishing thing when you're dealing with these, like the macro sparkles. It's still a small enough particle, and whatever it is, it's not the same material, I don't think, as like glitter. You know, like the holographic glitter stuff. It may also just not be like as thick or something. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can just polish this stuff and not worry about it. Okay. All right, we got our sanding steps done. Let's go to the magic juice. Knock that guy down. All right, step one. All right. Yeah. Yeah, these ones are good too, guys. It's not bad. I like that galactic ghost stuff. That's good stuff. I need to double check which ones I used on this. Again, I think I need to add some water to this number 2. Hold on a minute. I never know how much water to add. That's the only hard part. Just kind of creep up on it. That feels better. Okay. I'm wondering if we put more. Which one did we put more black in? I think we did more black in the first one. No, I think I cut it down actually, 0.8. Because another thing that I didn't even mention, I forgot about. I shorted the first pour. So we put, I think we put the same amount of, no, I took terrible notes. I think we put more black dye technically in the first batch because I shorted the amount. And there was no problem. I popped it in about, I think I pulled it after 2 hours in the pressure pot, and then I just added, did this, the same stuff that we did the first time. Just made more of it and then poured it on top, and everything was fine. You're still better off not having to do that. It's, if I had a choice, I'd rather not short blanks, but if you do short the pour, you don't have enough resin mixed up to fill the mold, you can always pour a little bit more over it. I just recommend that you do it, kind of as soon as possible, as you can. So, you're going to need to leave it in the pressure pot for some amount of time, but if you're using something other than Alumilite Clear or Clear Slow, you'll have to figure that out on your own. It just, every resin is going to be different. But for like Alumilite Clear Slow, for that much resin, and if it's a very small amount of resin, things are going to change. But after a couple hours, you should be able to pull it out of the pressure pot. The resin will be hardened up. You're not going to have to worry about bubbles coming back. Whoa. See, this is why you got to watch out if you're using something that doesn't rip. Now, I wasn't using something that doesn't rip. This one would have ripped. We're just going to redo this. Yeah, a couple hours, it should be good enough. I mean, if you want to be very safe, just leave it in there for 4 hours. You'll be fine, and then pour it then. Bare minimum, worst case scenario, definitely you're best off doing that second pour within the first 24 hours after you did the first pour. Less than 24 hours since you poured the first one. Best case scenario is to pull it out of the pot a little bit earlier than you maybe normally would have. Like I said, within reason, like a couple hours, 2-3 hours, 4 if you really want to play it safe. And then do that second pour, and you'll be fine. It's not going to be a problem. Let's see, we're doing number 4, I think. Yeah. Yeah, these, you start putting like these putting black together with, glitter or the galactic ghost thing. They end up looking kind of spacey. Galaxy nebula kind of thing. But I don't know. I think the firework thing, they're fireworky, confetti-ish. A little bit. Might have to use your imagination a little bit, We're in the realm of firework. Whatever this is, it looks good. I don't know. I'm really seeing the fireworks. Like, you start thinking about the different types of fireworks that you see at fireworks shows. This one looks like the ones that like do the colored, fizzle, the fizzly ones. It's kind of what this reminds me of. Kind of looks like I said, again, confetti popping. Those little confetti poppers. It's got that feel to me a little bit. So on these last 2 steps of Magic Juice, I'm switching over to the non-scratch, like it's a microfiber type material. But, you know, so I had that thing wrap up on me. Now this stuff would not rip. This stuff is not going to rip no matter what happens. So you got to be careful if you're using something like that. Now, with such a small piece of it, I'm not particularly worried, but I am going to be on my toes here. Get my hands out of there if I feel it grabbing. The reason I'm okay with it, because I usually try to steer clear of doing things that are dangerous. I'm not particularly interested. There's nothing generally worth me getting hurt to do. You know, it's not worth doing it if I'm going to get hurt. But in this case, I don't really feel like there's a lot of risk. Even if it did wrap up, I don't think it's going to rip my arm into the lathe anyway, or fingers or any of that stuff. So, but you know, there is a risk of that happening. So, just be aware of that. Okay. I like using these non-scratch ones just for the last two steps. And definitely don't use a giant rag like this. That's not, while it's actually on. You know, while the lathe is running, don't do that. That is a recipe for disaster. But I like doing it on the last two just so I know that the paper towel, that's what I was using. I'm a little worried that it may be a little abrasive, and so you're kind of defeating the purpose of using a high grit polish if you're just putting some scratches in there with the paper towel thing. I don't know. I don't know how big of a deal it is or not, but I feel better doing it this way, you know? I think bare minimum, if you don't want to mess around with going and finding, you know, these wipe things, microfiber things, I do think the blue paper towels are the way to go. If you're going to be doing this, I think it's worth going and getting the shop towels. They're definitely less abrasive than just normal white paper towels. The other thing is, I'm not 100% certain that you really need to go pull out those microfibers on any parts of these steps. But what I will say is, you know, you put the magic juice on here, and I think that it's not really abrasive at that point, like the paper towel, because obviously we're not getting a bunch of scratches all over the place throughout the rest of the grits. What I do think is a problem is, and I used to do this like all the time, is I would you know, have my magic juice on the paper towel, do the whole thing with it spinning, then I would fold it over and find a dry spot with the lathe running. Then I would mash this thing into the blank, and I'm pretty certain that does cause scratches, especially if you do that on like step 6. You're gonna add scratches to it, I think. So, you know, whether you care that much to go get some microfiber thing for the like step 5 and 6 or 3 and 4, you know, whatever. I don't know that that's entirely necessary. I have those things, so I do it just in case. But what I don't recommend doing is just mashing a paper towel on a spinning blank dry. That's almost certainly going to put scratches into the blank. That's what I have concluded so far. I do want to like pull out like a microscope or something and see if I can see like what grit scratches paper towel puts in stuff. I think that would be cool. So obviously I don't think that this style of blank, the one with the galactic ghost, I would say that you don't need to put a CA finish on there, because that thing is pretty blinging, bling-tastic. I really like that. I mean, when you spin it, that totally looks like those little sparkly firework things. Happy New Year. I like this one too. I was a little bit like, I don't know. I'm not sure about the other one because, you know, I want to show you guys the blanks before we turn them again. Not to say that I wasn't impressed or that I was like, oh, that's going to be terrible or something like that. But given the choice, I think that the darker ones absolutely look better as blanks. So let's get you guys in here. So like off the bat, I mean, I would pick these ones all day. These look a little bit just kind of bronzy looking or something, dull. I wasn't sure. You know, there's not a lot going on, but you can see all these little glitter chunks. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on the outside of these. However, then you get them done, and they're both pretty good. They're different, you know. Let me get focused here. They're both good. It's really hard to spin both of them at the same time. A lot of fun there. And then this one's just different because it's like more densely packed with those macros and things. I'll tell you what though, guys, the Galactic Ghost, I think we're going to be using more Galactic Ghost in the future because that stuff is looking good. So what did we use? I used Galactic Ghost Blue and let's see. Oh, okay, that's what I did. I remember. Okay, so I had 2 cups, well, 3. I had one with black, but then I had a cup with Galactic Ghost Blue and green. I didn't have the actual Galactic Ghost from eye candy. I had pretty much the same thing from Wine Country. There was a green one. And then I used gold and red. And once again, I have gold from eye candy, but then I used the red one from Wine Country. Which one's which? Yeah, this one. Huh. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in there. I think I could probably even added more of the Galactic Ghost in there. What did I do? I took really bad notes. I'm going to have to go back and watch the video. Jeez. All right, so let's put this thing together, do some assembling. Put these guys away. So the Pen Blank Club folks, you guys are going to be getting, we did the Fire and Ice a couple times ago, and then you'll be getting the other one as one of these guys, and so half of you will get one, half will get the other. So that's fun. Hopefully, you guys are excited to get them. Let me grab my pen press. I got to get the Miles Craft one, guys. I think I'm gonna have to get that. I think. I haven't been loving this one, I gotta be honest. I want to give that Miles Craft one a try. Okay, so this one, which one's which? Okay, this one goes over here. There. All right, so we got for the second, we're doing the second one first, putting together, assembling the second one first here. So let me get the little tip cover thing off the ink. So with these Monarchs, it's pretty simple. You just put the front end together, make sure that works. That's looking good. And we just have one thing to mount. Super simple. So which way do I want to go? I kind of made it so that this was like a little bit longer than this back end here. But there was this little section with a lot of oh, that's on that side. It's so shiny, I can barely see what's going on. I think I'm going to do it this way, even though I was kind of, no. It really looks better this way. That's kind of how I turned it, was to do it this way. That's pretty tight. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, that's tight. That's so tight. That is so tight. I'm going to have to, jeez. I mean, that's not going to fit. I'm going to have to like grind this down a little bit. I'm going to grab some sandpaper because that's just not going in there. And I don't think there's glue in there because the bushings wouldn't have fit. So let's grab, should get this clip out of the way. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and sand this down with 180. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Because, I mean, it was like way tight. I don't really feel like that did a whole lot. I'm glad this isn't the one with the CA finish on it, because try. Okay, we're okay. That actually did, that worked. Okay, good. So if it's super tight, then, you know, like I said, this is just a little bit of 180. Just sand it down a little bit and should ease it up. Just be, you know, go lightly on that. And you just, that looks pretty good. I actually like that antique brass. Woo, man, that is sparkling. Razzle dazzle. If I was going to make a blank like this, I would call it razzle dazzle. Whew. That's pretty good, pretty good. Okay, let's go for the other one, which I think is also going to look pretty good. I'm really excited to use this blue, let's say they call it a Blue Galaxy Monarch. And I've got these linked down. I got this at Turner's Warehouse. Got them linked down in the description. I'll drop another link in the chat here in a second. If you want to pick up these the Monarchs are really nice. It's a, you know, the Sierra kits are, you know, they are what they are. They're just, it's just a Sierra, or, you know, Monarch, those types of kits. But I will say these Monarchs really, some of these platings are just fabulous. Definitely better than just like a Sierra. I like them. Get that guy in.
Shut up and take my money.
Make sure that's nice and tight. Ink's working good. Okay, so let's take a look at this guy. Is there anything special? Let's see. There was. Yeah, I really can't see those. Well, okay. If the light hits it right, I can kind of see it's a little. It looks like a glue splotch.
Shut up and take my money.
Maybe there, probably, I guess. But you really got to kind of know what you're looking for. So I think I'm going to try and kind of hide that a little bit. Yeah, I like this down here. So let me find that splotchy, thinner area. Really tough. Oh, there it is. I got to be honest. I'm going to put on the magnification glasses just to make sure that I'm getting this covering what I want it to cover. Huh. Tough to find. There it is. Okay. I don't feel like this one's as tight on the tube. There we go. Ooh. There's so much shiny reflection going on that it's actually kind of hard to see it, but
Shut up
the
and take my
reflection kind
money.
of goes away. That's a good one too. I like that blue, man. Whew. That kit pops. So let me just look and see which kit. There's one that's like a titanium. I think there's two different blue galaxies. I think this is just the regular
Shut up
one.
and take my money.
There might be like a titanium, which might be like a, I think there was a different one, and it might have like a trim or something a little bit different on part of it. But man, I'll tell you what, this blue galaxy looks pretty good. I'm digging it. Very shiny. Ooh, New Year's pens. I think they turned out pretty good. What do you guys think? Get the Miles Craft. Oh man, you guys are funny. Pen Press Fund. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, the Blue Galaxy, I'm telling you. It's a good one. So I'm, let's see. Oh, the deburring tool. Oh, yeah. Well, so I already deburred the inside of the tube. I used, maybe not like a, I don't know if it's the, I'll show you guys what I mean. I do two things, usually. I use this guy, and I get that. So I already did that to all four edges on those things. And I actually, just in case in one of them had a little bit of glue on the inside of the tube, so I use this thing to like actually get in there and scrape. I don't know which one I did that on, but a lot of times I'll kind of break both edges from both sides on the inside. I guess I could maybe, you could maybe sand the inside of the blank, I guess, but I'd be kind of worried that I'd scratch the, the blank. I guess I could have scratched the plating too. I don't know. It's just sometimes some kits just, I'm guessing maybe it's like there's more plating, you know, on it or something. I don't know what it is. Sometimes they just don't fit very well. Sometimes it is kind of glue or something like that with the tube. Yeah, I've used a vise. I will say, to be honest, my favorite method, and it still stands today. Oh shoot, where did I put that thing? I had a vertical, it's like a vertical, like a press. Where the heck did I put that thing? Here it is. I don't think they make these things anymore. This was my favorite method, by like hands down. It still is today. Doing it vertically makes way more sense because you're not fighting gravity, holding it horizontally. I do like the spring action thing where it does kind of hold it in place, but it still tends to get wonky on me. So I like this. The problem is I don't want to have to pull a camera out to get a weird side angle. So it's my problem is it's not the press. I would actually just not use a pen press and use this. But for video, it's just a pain. Like I'd rather just do it from above. So I do think I'm going to go get that Miles Craft because Chad said nothing but good things about it. I've seen it in action also, like firsthand. So I think I'm going to get that. The reason I bought this one, and it's not terrible. It's not great though either. The reason I bought this was I was hoping it would help with what am I trying to say? Taking apart pens, you know, when you have to like repair them or do something. Beating it to death with a hammer and a punch works, but I've also destroyed pen kits doing that. And I thought, well, maybe, this thing kind of, you can also use it for, what do you call that? I can't think of the word. whatever, taking apart pen kits. But it doesn't work that well for doing that. Like it just, you can't hold it well enough and it'll like press the parts out. I thought maybe I would destroy less pen kits doing that. And I don't destroy a ton of pen kits, you know, using the punch method, but sometimes things are just stuck in there. Problem is that thing doesn't work. It's not like it's offering you a better method than just beating it to death. You get a lot more force doing the hammer method. So things that are stuck, you're still going to have to use the mallet thing. And for things that aren't very stuck in there, you can just kind of tap it and you don't really break the kit anyway. So the reason I bought it, it doesn't really help any. So I'm going to get the bottom line, I'm going to go get the Milescraft one. I think that'll work a lot better. So it looks like I'm almost there with all you guys' super chats. I appreciate that. That's so cool. Yeah, the Blue Galaxy, guys, that's a good kit to get. So I'm going to get you guys the link to, and it's to all the kits, not just any specific one. The Monarch, you know, line. They've got a ton of different options. What the heck just happened? There we go. Monarch pen kit. There we go. So there's a link down there. There's also one down in the description if you're watching after the fact. But overall, pretty good. So hopefully, you know, if you're looking for a CA finish to use also, I really liked this, what is it called? Instaflex. And Turner's this is a Turner's Warehouse branded thing. I got to be honest, I don't know that this thin one or whatever, what is this one called even? Thin. What was the other one? Medium. I don't know about the thin. I don't think I would use this. It's on par with the thinness of the super fast thin from Starbond. I think that's thinner, and I know that it actually really works at penetrating stuff, so I'm just not sure. I don't need a flex version to do what I do with that, with the Starbond stuff. Like I said, two different things. For pen finishes, you want the flex thing. But when I use this as a utility for penetrating into cracks or like kind of stabilizing things that you know, like pine cones and stuff. You can let this absorb in and it hardens things that aren't already stabilized. So this is a utility thing, and I think this is what I'm going to use. I like the Starbond Superfast Thin. I don't think that I like this for finishing because it's so thin that I don't know what, I don't like it. I don't need a thin one. The medium Instant Flex is the perfect thickness for finishes for me. Like I said, you may like the thinner stuff, but it just kind of was runny. I mean, it was so thin it was runny. This other one, the pink bottle, really good, really good. Low, you know, I didn't really get to try it. Well, sort of tried it with the dust collector off. I didn't notice any fumes though. Like I really had to like stick my nose in it to like smell the CA glue. And normally if you do that with a bottle of CA glue, like it burns your eyeballs out. Like, I mean, I took a huff of this stuff and it didn't react. Like I didn't get that burning CA sensation. And the accelerator works good. Really don't need to use a lot of this stuff. Like just you know, that's it. And so this can would probably last forever. Is Chad still in the chat? I don't know. I don't remember what the price was, but I'm almost certain this stuff is cheaper than Mercury. So if you use Mercury, I think this saves you money. You might give it a try. Like I said, I'm just not 100% sure what I would do, what anybody needs to do with the thin flex one, whatever. I don't know about this one, but the pink one, the medium Instaflex, really good. And like I said, it bridges I actually like it better. So it's like, it feels to me like it's like the viscosity is in between thin and thick, or whatever, thin and medium Mercury, which actually is kind of perfect. I really kind of like that. So I don't know. Give it a try if you want. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's cheaper than Mercury. Save a couple bucks, try something new, you know. And I would imagine that you can probably use, if you already are using some other accelerator, I would imagine you can use whatever accelerator. I just decided to get the one that goes with that stuff. So I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue. Yeah, I know. Short circuit reference. No disassemble. Disassemble, yeah, that's what I was trying to do. What Milescraft? I think it's Milescraft, right? It's the pen kit assembly thing. I think it's Milescraft. The one that Chad used, yeah, Milescraft pen press. I'll link to this too. It's really good. Like, and the stupid thing is, I'm pretty sure it's the same price as the one that I bought, and it's better, like hands down. So let me get a link to this too, if you want to check out that one. Chad's used it in his videos quite a bit. It's just the way that it operates, it works better than this one. So let's go get a link. You want to look at it? I will be buying one. Let's see, what's the price tag? I forgot to look. It's not necessary like these pen presses, but I have a way. There's even a way you can do it on your lathe. I found that to be clunky. If you drop it, it's going to hit the bed. You got to put something down. Lathe Buddy would be probably a pretty good idea, but I don't love the lathe ones really. Vices work pretty well. I've used those in the past. I think that these presses work better. I still say if you can find a vertical way of doing it, that's by far, I love that. That was my favorite way of doing it. And the only reason I even went to a pen press, because I didn't use a pen press ever until we set up this system for like the cameras and all that kind of stuff. That's when I bought a pen press, and I was like, well, this one does disassembly. You know, if I got to buy a pen press, but the disassembly aspect of it doesn't really work. So, But the Milescraft one is pretty good. So it is $69.99, not cheap. I mean, you know, these pen presses are kind of expensive, but this one's a good one. So, like I said, I mean, I even use just like a jet parallel clamp. That's honestly, I used that for 10 years probably, and that worked really well too. So if you want to look at the Milescraft, like I said, I'll be getting one pretty soon here. I got to put another order in with Turner's. First of the year, you got to buy some stuff, right? So yeah, the spring-loaded thing, I'm telling you, it's good. And I like the little. It's simple to adjust. It's good. It's a nice one. Yeah, no, I don't think there's a new one. It's a much better one than the one that I was using. No, well, so, okay, the drawback to the parallel clamp is it's finicky. Getting it, it was a lot more finicky than I'm okay with spending. Like, I don't know if I was just doing this for a hobby, I don't know that I would be like, oh, I need to go buy the $70 pen press. You know, I already have like clamps, and the vertical one is by far the best one that I've ever used. I liked that. If that's all I was doing and I wasn't videoing, that's what I'd use. But I like having something horizontal over here so that we can do this and I don't have to move cameras or do anything like that. But, you know, do you need to spend $70 on a pen press? No. It's a luxury item, but, you know, it's a business expense, so I may as well buy one, right? Plus, I got some super chats to help out, so we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. And I'll give you my honest opinion. If I get this Milescraft one and I'm like, this really isn't any better than the other one that I had, I'll let you know. But I'm pretty sure it's the same price as that other one that I had too. Because I'm pretty sure I got it at Turner's Warehouse. I don't know if they sell it anymore. Let me search for pen press. They might not even sell it. Because Chad, typically, if Chad's like, oh, this one works way better and it's the same price, a lot of times they don't keep stuff. Yeah, they don't sell it anymore. He probably was like, I don't see the point because this thing doesn't disassemble anything. better than a punch and a hammer. And, and the Milescraft, I'm pretty sure it was the same exact price, and the Milescraft works better, I'm pretty sure, than that other one. So we'll have to see, you know, how that one works. I'll compare them and see how I feel about it, but I'm pretty sure it's better. Yeah, I mean, I use the Jet, you know, but Bessie, they work okay. It gets a little constant. I got tired of constantly screwing it in and out and doing all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. So the Pen Blank Club, folks, you guys will be getting one of these guys, one of the two, plus the Fire and Ice blanks, and those will be going out. Those are going out on the 15th. So we're way ahead of schedule on those things, so that's good. So a week and a half or so from now. And then I think that's about it, guys. I think that's it. So anyway, Happy New Year again. So next year, or this year, I'll try to do something, and I'll try and think and see if I can come up with even like new ideas and stuff for the hanging stuff, or you know, whatever, suspending things in resin. I'll see if there's any new tricks that I haven't thought of already on that, and we'll try and do some of those. Probably make some bottle stoppers on the stream sometime. So we'll put that probably soon, but you know, a couple weeks or so from now. But anyway, I hope everybody had a great New Year, and I hope you're looking forward to doing some fun stuff in the shop in 2026. And yeah, so I think that's about it, guys. So we'll see you guys all on the next stream. Thanks for joining the fun today.